Hello and well met. This is Founder Layroon with Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today we are going to build a monk based off the new Fizaban's Treasury of Dragons. This is the new build for the monk archetype called Way of the Ascendant Dragon. I'm going to create a level 5 monk. It's going to be a human variant. It is going to be a male monk that is basically out to capture people. That's his duty or his job. He's kind of like the person you love to hate. His name is Anathema. Not a very friendly individual, but he's not evil. He's just very dedicated to what he does. So he's kind of like a bounty hunter, man catcher type. He goes out and he's basically for hire, like a mercenary. He goes out and he'll capture people. So I'm going to build him in this regard. It's going to be like a lawful neutral, maybe lawful evil type, depends on how you want to look at it. But for the most part, he's going to be a human variant, level 5 monk, and I'm going to give him some sort of background that is going to be conducive to him hunting down people. He might have disguises and things like that. So we'll see what happens. So first things first, in the library, I have already loaded some content. So I wanted you to be aware of the types of material that I'm using, so you are not disillusioned as to what's going on here. So I've already started a character sheet. I haven't done anything to it yet other than assign a portrait and a token. Also, I put a name on there. His name is Anathema. That's not his real name, but that's his street name or his handle. He's basically like a bounty hunter. He goes out and he captures people for money, basically. So he's not really that great of a guy, but he is disciplined, and he has manners, and he's not necessarily evil. He's just somebody that does this kind of work for a living. Pretty much doesn't have any friends. He's just kind of out for himself kind of guy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check this out. So first thing first is I'm going to roll some stats. In my library, I have quite a few special items loaded. I also have WoTC coding effects. I have most, if not all, of the character creation content, including the new Fizaban's Treasury of Dragons players section. I have all the core books loaded, and I have some extensions that will help make the character build faster. So I have Matakire's link fill extension, and I also have Mad Nomad's extension, which pulls over any of the coding effects that I need from WoTC's coding effects package. So those are enabled in my load-in when I come into Fantasy Grounds, so you know what I'm using. This really makes it a lot quicker. And it kind of eliminates even some of the need for drag and drop, but there will be a little bit of customization I might have to do. But for the most part, everything's kind of automated for me, so I can get through this a lot quicker. So this is a graphic I threw together for this. So this is my envisioned what this monk might look like. I use the Hero Labs application to create these images. So if you're wondering where these came from, that's where I got it. Then I just threw it together in Canva and kind of made it like a collage, just to kind of give you some flavor and kind of give it some more detail. I put this little dragon on his uniform, and I kind of went all out on this. So hopefully this inspires you to create your own characters using Fantasy Grounds. I'm going to use the old drag and drop method because the character builder, the character wizard, hasn't been worked on in a while, so I'm not going to use that. Going to go with the old method, and this is probably a lot more comprehensive than you would get with the character builder. So first things first, when you build characters this way and not using the character builder, the first thing you want to start with is ability scores. So to remember how to do it this manual way is ABRC, a battle ready character. So ability scores, background, race, class, and level. So what I'm going to do is going to grab some dice. So you can form your own dice pool, or you can use a dice rolling command. So there's a /die, which is a command for the chat window, and then 4d6, so that's 4 6-sideds, and then K3. So that command is going to tell Fantasy Grounds to roll 4d6 and keep the highest 3, or you can do 4d6 L1, which would be to drop the lowest. So either one will work, but instead of hitting enter right now, I'm going to drag the text to my hotkeys so I don't have to retype it every time I want to use it. So again, I'm going to type it. So right /die, and then 4d6 K3. And that's the formula. When you hit enter, that's going to put that in your chat, but I want to also keep the formula so I can just single click from the shortcut 6 times to generate my stats. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. It's going to do it live. We'll see what happens. So there's 6 sets of numbers here, and it looks like I rolled pretty good, but look at that 6. Wow. So maybe that's his charisma. But, you know, with having, I don't know, maybe not. It just depends on how you want to build your character. But that 6 doesn't have to be that bad because I can actually enhance it with a racial adjustment that would bring it up to like 8 or something like that. So I'll do that. So he's not the most charismatic or friendly individual, so I'm going to put that 6 where the charisma is, because he's really not a persuasive or much of a talker anyways. For his dexterity, I'm going to use the 18 because I think that's very important. He's more of a dexterous type. And then his con, I'm going to make that 17. So those are important stats for your monk characters. I'm going to put the 14 in his, or the 15 in his, let's see. Actually, I'm going to put 15 in wisdom. And that will help. And then I'm going to put the 11 in his strength, or no, in his intelligence. And then for his strength, I'm going to put 14. So he's not really that strong. I mean, he's exceptional, but he's got a lot of good things. So that 6 will basically get canceled out once I build the character if I want to do that. And I think I will once I get to that point. So that's the pretty good stats other than that 6, but it kind of balances out the character because he's pretty OP right now. So, you know, he's a little overpowered for that role, but that was pretty cool. So I haven't rolled that well in a long time, with the exception to the 6. So the 6 is almost as low as you can go. All right, so the next thing is we're going to grab a background. So I want a background that's going to fit his profession, which is like a man catcher. So he could be a criminal or, you know, an acolyte or something like that from a monk temple, but I want him to have a little bit more street smarts and such. So I can make him an outlander or a soldier or a spy or something like that. But I want to use the, let's see, criminal isn't really what I'm looking for. Folk hero, not necessarily. General background template, you can use that and build your own. There's the haunted one. Investigator, that might be a thing. Investigator is something that you may want to use. It's kind of close. Then you have the smuggler, which I don't think is right. Spy would be pretty conducive to this background. And you have an urchin, which is kind of like a street person that grew up on the street, so that might lend itself to this. There's a marine, a noble, outlander might be another one. But I thought there was an urban, like, spy or kind of like a bounty hunter. Or what happened to that? So I don't see the bounty hunter, but that's basically what I want him to be. So I think I'll give him the spy background because that's pretty close to what he needs, or the investigator. So you relentlessly seek the truth, perhaps you're motivated. Yeah, that's more investigating like phenomena and cases and stuff. This would be something I'd want to use in, let's see, there are many kinds of criminals, and within a thieves guild, okay, yep, save specialties, even criminals operates out of, yeah, I think the spy uses deception and stealth, and so that's not bad. So one thing in Fantasy Grounds, building the character this way, is that you have to basically be careful with your background clashing with your background or your class and your racial skills. So that's the only thing that I can really caution you about. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over, and you get a crowbar, you get some dark clothing. So yeah, it's not bad. It's pretty close. So I'm going to take this spy background, and I'm going to drop it on the background area, and it'll automatically pull over anything that belongs to that. So you get a feature called Criminal Contact, you get Deception, Stealth, and then you get a tool proficiency of your choice, which is one type of gaming set Thieves Tools. And if that is something that can be coded, it'll be put automatically on my Actions tab because I have all that content loaded. So it put the crowbar on my Actions tab because you can get advantage with that crowbar if you try to pry something open. So that's why it was added there. But it was also added as an inventory item too. So I'm getting my background items and equipment. I got 15 gold, which is recorded down here. So 15 GP is my gold there. So that was pulled over. Thanks to the extensions and the modules that I had, so I didn't even have to do anything. So that is the background. So now for race, I was going to choose a human variant, but if anybody out there has a better idea of what I should choose, I don't have a problem with that. I didn't want to pick a Dragonborn because I noticed that they have a trait that is very similar to the class trait. So I want to avoid a Dragonborn. But any other race would probably do, like maybe a halfling or a half-orc or, whatever it might be. But I was thinking human variant, so I had a little bit more options and kind of customization instead of being stuck with the same types of traits. But nonetheless, I think maybe the human variant might be the way to go. So let me go with the races and see what we got here to choose from. There's some monstrous races too that I loaded that would give us a lot of options, like for different kinds of non-typical character races. But I think one of those human type things, plus the photo I made is kind of more human looking, so I guess I'll go with human variant. So human variant, here it is right here. So this is going to give me a little bit more customization instead of just a basic human. I think that's cool. But if anyone had any suggestions on a bounty hunter kind of leaning race that might make a good one, let me know. Maybe a half elf or something like that. So they can kind of blend into human and elven society. All right, so let's take the race, and I'm going to drag and drop that into the race area. It's going to pop up, and I get to choose 2 abilities from the list below to increase by 1. So I'm definitely going to put 1 in Charisma. And then I'm going to put 1 in maybe Strength. And that should do it. Pretty tough individual here. Actually, yeah, so Strength and maybe even Dex. Oh yeah, so he'll have a 19 dexterity, but I don't think you can normally go above 18 in this case, so maybe I'll put it in strength like I was. So his charisma and strength are going to go up by 1. And that's good because he had a horrible charisma, and his strength wasn't that great anyway. So let's see. So I get 1 skill, so I don't want to pick any of the 2 I have. So I'll look at the skills tab. I have deception and stealth. So I think perception is definitely going to be something I want for this sort of character. And probably insight and those sort of things. But I'll wait till I get my class features and see what that offers me. So there's the perception. Actually, you know what? I think I will take insight because I don't know if it's going to allow me to choose that. Because insight's good to know, like when people are lying and such. I think that's a good one to have, so I'll go ahead and pick that. So it adds that to here, and then I know that by first level, if you don't have at least 4 skills, then you've probably doubled up somewhere. So I'm going to open up the class and level window, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the class, which is going to be a monk. You don't get the Ascendant Monk until you get to 3rd level for your archetype, so I'll level them up to level 3 at least, and then up to level 5. So let's take a look. So going to take class here and look for monk, drag and drop that over. Just going to take the one out of the player's handbook, even though it's mentioned 5 times in here. Drag and drop, and it will take and add whatever things come with your class, like your simple weapons and that sort of thing. And I'll have to swap those out later, but it's going to give me the basic stuff because of the plugin and the extension that I have. So I want to take acrobatics for a skill choice, so I definitely want that. And now I already have stealth, insight, and deception. So maybe athletics. would be lend itself to this. There's history, insight, religion, and stealth. We already have stealth. I don't see religion as being required. Insight I already have, and history I don't. But I think these two physical ones would make more sense for his class. All right, so there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And while I'm here, I'm going to add my playing card. So I want to add proficient with the playing card. So playing card set or gaming set. Gaming set cards, we'll say. So he's a card player. Probably gambles a little bit just to kind of check in on people. Now I'm going to make that based on wisdom. And then he also had another thing here that was added. He gets Thieves' Tools. So I'm going to add that too while I'm here. So Thieves' Tools. He's proficient with that, which is really good because sometimes he'll need to get into places he's not supposed to be to capture his person. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Thieves' Tools and change that to Dex. So those are his extra proficiencies that he gets for being a monk and his background and such. So that's why I added those to make him easier. So if he ever does any gambling or card tricks or anything like that, I have that available. And then if he uses Thieves' Tools, I have that role set up already. So that's handy. And then you can see it's already added, the plugins and such has already added the content that comes from my background and for my class. So I get a crowbar, I get 2 of them, which I think I only need 1. 10 darts, a short sword, a tinderbox. I don't want the short blade. I'm going to substitute out with a couple other cool weapons. And then I'll just leave the rest of the stuff for now. Yep, so I got food, backpack, some dark clothing. Yeah, that works. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and level up to level 2. So just drag and drop. And it will add whatever it is that's added. You'll get the next set of hit points, which is an average. Level 1, you get full hit points plus your con bonus. This time, on the second level, you get half of whatever your normal hit die is, rounded up, plus your con bonus. So he's already at 19 hit points, which is pretty good for a second level monk. That's why I opted to have a decent constitution score. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is drag and drop again. So just dragging this little dragon head thing over onto the class and level to level up. It's going to pull in whatever content is available. Now here's where you get your choices of whatever type of monk you want to be. So I'm going to pick Way of the Ascendant Dragon. And if you want to read about it before you select it, you can click on the link, provided that you have the content, and you can read about it. And you get this Draconic Disciple, which is at 3rd level. You get Breath of the Dragon, which is a 3rd level feature. Wings Unfurled, you don't get till 6th level, so we won't see that. But these are the 2 kind of cool things. You get this breath weapon, and you get this Draconic Disciple. And this is why I didn't want to pick a Dragonborn, because you have a natural breath weapon, and then you also get one for your class. It's a little different, but it's almost the same thing. So I would prefer that I had a different feature altogether than 2 that are similar. Okay, so those are the 2 things I get for being this. And then there's a Dragon Origin, which I'm going to use for my background. And that's pretty much it right now. So just go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to hit confirm for OK. And it adds whatever features in your abilities tab. So anything that was added will be added here. And then on the actions tab, since I have all that extra stuff, I have a bunch of pre-filled in things that were done for me because I have the extension. So I have some torches and crowbars. I have the Breath of the Dragon here. And I also have the key powers and the Dragon Disciple and all kinds of cool stuff. So you have a Draconic Presence, which I think I'm going to put up here as well. So this has a Draconic Strike, Tongue of Dragons. You learn to speak, read, write Draconic or one other language of your choice. So if I go to my Skills tab or my Abilities tab and look at there, so I have Draconic now for one of my choices, and common. And then you get this Draconic Strike. When you damage a target with an Unarmed Strike, you can change the damage type to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. So I will show you how to do that later. And then your Draconic Disciple is like a kind of a variety of things, and you have a Draconic Presence. So if you fail a Charisma, check or whatever, you can use your reaction roll, and as you tap into your Presence, once a feature turns a failure into it will turn it into a success, but you can't use it for a long rest or until you get a long rest. It doesn't level up or anything. So that's why this little check mark was on the actions tab, because you can use it once. And then your breath weapon is channeling this thing, and you basically at 11th level you get to increase it, but at 1st through 10 you can channel this cone of whatever you like. You can choose acid, fire, lightning. So if you open this up and you look at Fantasy Grounds, it's going to probably ask you to edit whatever the damage type is. So if you're going to add damage to the breath weapon, you can actually do any of those, and you can make all of those and add it to your sheet to make it simpler. So I might do that. And then here's my background, so I'm going to roll that and see what I come up with. So this says, a dragon personally took an active role in shaping your inner energy. So I studied underneath a dragon. I'm going to put 10 for my darts. That's how many I have in my inventory, so I'm going to go ahead and put that there. I'm going to grab the Unarmed Strike. It's an actual item, so I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to adjust it if I need to. So Unarmed Strike, Monk. So if you add this to your inventory when you're building your character, it will treat it like a weapon, which is what you want. And it doesn't have a weight or anything because it's just an actual way to code it so you can put it on your sheet. And it automatically adds it here as a weapon. And it's 1d4 plus 2, and you can choose whether you want strength or charisma. So right now it says base, but if I change that to dexterity, that should increase it if you had a higher dex, that is. And then that's your 2-hit bonus. So that's pretty cool. And then you get your proficiency bonus on top of that. So we'll see what happens when I level up. So I'm going to go ahead and level up again to level 4. And in this case, you get to choose whether you want a ability score increase, an ASR, or if you want to pick a feat. So I'm going to take a look at some of the new feats, see if I want to choose that instead. So I'm going to go over here on the right to the feats. I'm going to filter this to the Treasury of Dragons and take a look at this sense of what they're going to give me. So there's scaled toughness, which I already think I want to get that already. So your skin toughens, making you resistant to certain types of physical harm. You gain resistance to piercing and slashing damage. That's pretty powerful. I might take that. And then there's the Frightful Presence, which I think you kind of gain that later anyways. Echo of Dragon Sight, Draconic Senses, Draconic Rebirth. You become a Dragonborn basically if you die, I guess. Wow, this is pretty crazy. Okay, and then your Psionic Reach, where you can... Yeah, I think I'm going to have the Scaled Toughness. I think that's what I'm going to choose. So I'm going to see how this reacts to the character sheet. So I'm going to go to my armor class. Right now it's 16, so it's a 4 from my dex. It's basically armor plus my full dex bonus plus my wisdom bonus. So that's why it's so high without having any armor. And that's kind of what you want for a monk anyways. And then I'm going to take this dragon breath and add that later. And roll on this table. So I want to see what this... Oh, I already did. I was shaped by that. Yeah, by the dragon. It actually trained me directly. So I'm going to go to my notes, and I'm going to drag that text into my notes area so I can remember that. And that will give me something to build off of. And I trained under a red dragon or something like that. So that's kind of cool. So that is that. Doesn't even have to, could have been a gem dragon or anything like that. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my feat. So if you go to your abilities tab, there's a place for feats up on top. So if I go to the feats area where I was, and I drag that scaled toughness, it's going to add that to my character sheet. And I want to see if it adjusts anywhere on the sheet itself. So if I go to the main tab and I go to the here, I don't see this per se, but it might be coded already. So when you have this type of ability, sometimes you'll have to code them if they haven't been done already. But I think Rob's already updated it. So if I go to feats and I go to scaled toughness, it's not going to change my character sheet, and it's just going to make me resist piercing and slashing damage. So that can be coded as an effect. So let me check out the actions tab. So I have quickened healing, breath weapon. Yeah, so it's not on here, so I'm going to have to do that myself. But it's basically code where you can resist it. And then I can go into the spells area and see if Rob's already coded it. So I've re-downloaded his coding effects. So if I go to feats, and then I go to, let's see, that was the... It was a dragon scaled defense or something like that. Yeah, I don't see that on here yet. So I will just code that live, so it's no big deal. I can do that. And then there is the rest of the stuff that was already added. Now I'm going to go ahead and level up once more. And that brings me to level 5. So level 5 obviously adds more stuff. You can probably have more key points. So at second level, you get key. You get this Fury of Blows. You get Patient Defense, Step of the Wind. So that's cool. Fury of Blows lets you take another action after your turn. And you get to get 2 Unarmed Strike as a bonus action. So that's pretty cool. So when you spend a point of key, you can get it after a short or long rest. So let's see if that's set up correctly. And yes, it is. And how many you get? You must spend... Let's see, you learn this. When you spend a key point, your monk level determines the number of points you have. So in this column here, I'm at level 5, so I need to change my key powers to 5. Because it defaults to 2, which is the minimum. Alright, that's cool. So there's a lot of different things here that you're going to be customizing as you build this character. But it looks like most of it's already done for me. So I don't have to hardly do anything. It's already done. So I will make sure that I code that scaled defense. So that was a feat. And scaled toughness, excuse me, is what it's called. I don't think it's hard baked into the rules yet. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to make the action. Because they have a dwarven resilience type thing and a toughness, and it's already kind of put into the system. It's like part of the actual rule set. So we'll see if they've done that yet or not. Okay, so that is the items here. Now for weapons, I got rid of the short blade. I'm going to give him a couple cool weapons. So I want to give him a whip and a net. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at his abilities tab. It says he can pick, simple weapons and short swords. So I don't know if a whip is simple or not. So we'll see. So items, I want to go to weapons. Get rid of the search criteria. Let's see what it says for whip. Just a regular old whip. It's finesse and reach. Well, I don't know. It looks like it's martial, so he may not be using that whip. Let's try the net. So a net is also a martial ranged weapon. So technically by the book, he's not supposed to use those. So what I will do is give him a quarterstaff. And he can use that. No problem. So that is that. I mean, I could break the rules and just say, oh yeah, you can use it, but I'm going to try to follow some of the rules. So there's his quarterstaff. And then he has some darts that he throws. Does he have a rope? That's what I wanted to know. No, he doesn't. So I'm going to give him a rope, because I definitely want him to have a silken rope, which is not as heavy. And then I'm going to give him a pouch, since he doesn't have... Oh yeah, he does. He does have one. He has food. He has a water skin to carry water in. He's got a crowbar, backpack. Yeah, he's got pitons and a little hammer so he can climb and such. I think that's pretty good. So that is that. Oh, I was going to give him his playing cards too. So cards. Those are marked cards. So let me try that. Playing card set. So that'll go in his inventory. And I'm going to give him the Thieves tools. He needs those too. Thieves tools. There we go. All right, cool. So those are his items that he's going to have in his inventory. So your skin toughens, making you resistance to certain types of physical harm. You gain resistance to piercing and slashing damage. So what I would do is take this, since it's not really coded, and I'm not sure if it's baked into the rule set yet. So I'm going to drag and drop this anywhere in the Actions tab. And then I'm going to call it Monk, like the rest of the Monk abilities. But that's more of a racial thing, so maybe I'll just make a new category. So racial trait. Okay, so that's a racial trait. And then if I right-click on it and add an action, that's going to allow me to add an effect. So I can do this, which is the scaled toughness. I'm not sure if I can chain these together, but I'm going to try. So scaled toughness. I don't remember if I have to make it a separate one or not for each one. But you're going to go resist, colon, and then you can put bludgeoning. Yeah, I think just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put them in separate lines, because I don't remember if you can string these together or not. So resist bludgeoning, and you got to spell it correctly. Is that what it says, or is it piercing? Oh, resistance to piercing and slashing, not bludgeoning. Piercing. So that is that. Yeah, I'd much rather be safe than sorry. So, and then targeting will be self. So I'm going to essentially do the same thing, but I'm just going to create it again. So I'm going to add an action, another effect, which is scaled defense again. But this is, I'll put a letter B, just so or actually slashing would for letter S is what I will call it, and it's also self. And I'm going to type semicolon and then resist, colon, and then I'm going to put piercing. That way, in case they can't overlap, I have those set. So those are things that you can do to kind of enhance this character a little bit. And I'm going to change the title on this to P for piercing, so that way I know which one is which. That way, when I use this, it makes sense as to what these are. Scaled defense, scaled toughness. Why do I change that title? So scaled toughness. Or is it scaled defense? I get confused. Okay. Scaled toughness. Okay, that's right. I want to make sure I got it titled right. Okay, so there we go. So scaled toughness. This is for the piercing, so that should be a letter P. And the other one is for slashing. So you take a look at that, make sure I have it right. Yeah, so I need to change this one. Second one, it needs to change the letter to... They're both piercing. What did I do? Okay, I'll do slashing then. I did it twice, so capital S, and then slashing. We'll see if this works or not. But there we go. So that's that for the scaled. And so when you are on the combat tracker, and before you adventure, you go ahead and put those on your character so they automatically apply. So that is that. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, so we have a lot of this stuff done. And what I'm going to do for the breath weapon is there is the saving throw. But then for each one of those, I can either make a breath weapon and change it every time I attack with it, or I can just make the damage for that. So let me see if I'll add those in there. So you can add your breath weapons as separate breath weapons. And it looks like you can use this feature the number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all of the expended usages. So I think his proficiency bonus is 3 now, so I need to change the breath weapon to 3. Right now it's still showing 2, which is normally what you have at lower levels. So that's 3, and it says a long rest, so that's set up correctly. And now for the damage, you're going to have to pick which damage type: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. So I'm going to make all 5 of those. So I'm going to right click, going to add action, and we're going to do damage. So we'll just keep doing that 5 times until we have all these different damage types. So add damage, just keep doing it until you get 5 of them. And the reason I'm doing it this way, so I don't have to keep changing it every time I use it. I just have to remember to select the correct energy type or the damage type. So 1, 2, 3, 4, one more. So I'm going to add, and this is going to be... Okay, so these are all the different damage types that are going to be available. And then there's a saving throw, so you got to do that first, and then if they save, they only take half damage. So the energy attacks are basically those that are emulated by dragons. When you make the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of the attacks with an exhalation of draconic energy. So it's 20-foot cone or 30-foot line. So what I'm going to do in there is put 20-30, depending on what it is. And that way I'll remember that it has that range. And then as far as the damage types, you just come in here and let's see, it says it's equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die. So when you are a martial artist, like this monk is, when you go to your class description on the table, it tells you what your martial arts die is for damage. So I might have to change my Unarmed Strike as well. So at level 5, it says it's a 1d6 for martial arts. So I need to change my unarmed damage to a d6 instead of a d4. Otherwise, it damage isn't correct. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a d6, drag and drop it on here, and that's going to be bludgeoning. And it's going to be based off the dex. That's where I want this attack to be based off of, so it's bludgeoning. Okay, and then for the actual fire breath, it's going to be 2d6. So on each one of these, I'm going to take and drag a 2d6. So you just pick up one hit-sided die, right-click, that adds the second dice, and then I'm going to make this one fire, and then just go down the list and do the same thing with everything else. So like that, and then I'm going to put cold, and then you're going to have, let's see, another one similar to that, but this one's going to be lightning. Make sure you spell these correctly or it won't work right. So there's lightning, and then there's poison and acid. So again, 2d6, there's poison, and then the last one is acid. And you get to choose the attack type, which is pretty cool. So when you use your breath weapon, you get to choose which one of these you're going to use. All right, so that's all the different damage types. So what that looks like when you're actually playing is when you're in combat mode and actions, and you have this compressed down, these are all the different damage types that you'll have available to you. So it'll look like this, and you just got to hover over and see which damage type you're going to choose for that attack. So you do your save first, and then you do the to find out if it's half damage or not, and then you roll and drag the damage onto your opponent. So that's how that will work. So that's the Disciple of the Dragon, the breath weapon for that. So Breath of the Dragon, and then it's either 20 or 30 depending on the energy type. So if it's acid, it'll be 30 feet, but if it's a cone, it's 20 feet. So if it's a line, like lightning and acid will be a line, and I think all the others, cone of cold, fire will be a cone, poison will be probably a cone, and then acid will be a stream, and same with lightning. So 2 of them will be streams, and then 2 of them will be cones. So that's cool. So that's that. And then so that takes care of this Breath of the Dragon thing, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But if you have no uses available, if you expend them all, you can use 2 key points to use the feature again. So that's pretty handy. So that is your breath weapon. And then your Draconic Presence is just basically a roleplay thing. So you have to remember that. Draconic Strike, when you damage a target with an Unarmed Strike, you can change the damage type. So what I would do here is you could do the same thing. You could make 50,000 different monk strikes here. So I can take this and create that several times, kind of like I did with the breath weapon. So if I went and created new items on here, I can create a bunch of new weapons. So if I go to add power, and then I'm going to add a weapon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I would take and modify these accordingly. So if I get out of the edit mode, I can just do like Dragon Strike or Draconic Strike, and then fire. So Draconic Strike, fire. Draconic Stroke, that's not what I wanted. Draconic Strike, fire. And that would just go in and edit that to where you take your D6, and then you just add fire. And that's basically how that would work. And then you could change your stat to dex or strength, depends on what you want to do. So that's for the attack roll. And then there's the fire damage type. So that's how you could do this to make it a little easier on yourself. So if you want to change your strike, you can. So if I take all this and basically recreate this several times. So if I want to do Draconic Strike Cold, I could do that, and it would be the same thing. I'm going to do Draconic Strike Lightning. And then Draconic Strike Acid. And then Draconic Strike. You say that one more time. Draconic Strike Poison. So those are the different strikes that you get. They're not as powerful as a breath weapon, but you still have the ability to use those when you're attacking. It might come in handy if you have something that's, you know, more resistant to certain types of damage, so you can pick and choose. The other thing is you want to make sure that they're equipped, these extra added in things. So I'm going to go ahead and add the dice, and then I want the corresponding damage type. So this would be acid, and then you'd have this one is fire, that's already dealt with. Put lightning on this one, so 1d6 and lightning. Yep, that's that. And then cold, so gotta have one for that. So this is kind of a longer roundabout way to do it, but once you've done it, you don't have to keep changing your character sheet too much. It really helps in the long run. It might be a little annoying in the beginning, especially if you're watching this video, but when you get the idea that you can do this, it helps for other things as well. So here's poison. So I got all these different damage types. So I want to go to the preparation mode and make sure that all of these are equipped, because it won't show up in the other modes if you don't have it set up that way. So all of these are equipped now. So they'll show up when you go to combat and actions. And those are all your different strikes. So you have a regular unarmed strike, and then you have all these other ones. So, yep, you can change the damage type. That should be it. So I already added the dragon tongue, so you can talk. So that should be pretty close to it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But this is a really detailed character. So I have these scaled toughness already coded in, and it's on the sheet here. I put in all the different breath weapons, and then all the varieties of unarmed strikes in here, so that way I don't have to change them during gameplay. I just got to pick which one I want to use. And if you notice, they don't have this little link here because they weren't created as an item, such as this unarmed strike was. So I just added those on, and those are just kind of for this character. But if you want to make that more permanent, and you don't have to keep doing that, you can put it in you can make them as items, like this unarmed strike, and just title them accordingly. And I don't know what his, but he should have 5,600 hit points. I don't know what the next progression level is, but that's where he would be. So this is Anathema. He is a 5th level human variant spy, but he's basically like a bounty hunter. He goes around kicking butt and taking names later. He's basically out to capture people, and that's what his job is. He's a bounty hunter. So I can kind of put that into his backstory. So if I go to the main sheet and pull up a spy, there's a table down at the bottom for his traits. And then I go to his actual notes tab. I'm going to put male up here. He looks like he's probably about 28 years old or so. He's 5'10", so he's not super tall, but he's not short. And he probably weighs 180 pounds soaking wet. It's not very heavy, but he's heavy enough because he's pretty girthy. I'm going to make him lawful neutral, so he's very disciplined. He follows his own set of rules. He has discipline, so he's not erratic. So the spy person says, I have a plan for what to do when things go wrong. Yep, definitely him. He's always calm. He never raises his voice. I like it. So that's definitely him. He's one of those types that can maintain. Ideals is, let's see, honor, freedom, charity, greed. I'll do whatever it takes to become wealthy. Nah. Redemption, there's a spark of good in everyone. People, I'm loyal to my friends, not to any ideals. No, I just think he doesn't really steal from others. So I think honor is his big thing, very lawful. For a bond, I'm trying to pay off an old debt. I think that is pretty cool. So he owes somebody something. Maybe it's that dragon that taught him that lesson. Yep. And last but not least, a flaw. So when I see something valuable, I can't stop to think about it. When faced with the choice between money and my friends, I usually choose the money. That's definitely him. And if there's a plan, I'll forget. I don't forget it. I'll ignore it. I have to tell that reveals that I'm lying. I'll run when things look bad. An innocent person is in prison for a crime that I committed. Yep. I think that's a good choice, what I have. So he already has his gear. If you want to, you can go into your inventory and organize it. So I would type backpack next to anything that was going to go into the pouch or the backpack. So that's something you should do to clean up your inventory. That will help things so it's more organized and not such a mess. That's kind of what I'm doing, is assigning the location for most of the items. That silk rope is pretty cool because it's pretty light. So the thieves' tools will go in the pouch, tinderbox is in the backpack, torches backpack, the water skin will be hung on the backpack, basically. So there's the organizational part of the character sheet. So I just have some throwing darts and a quarterstaff. So it should be enough to apprehend somebody. And then my martial arts, got monastic traditions. When you reach 3rd level, you commit yourself to a monastic tradition, which is the way of the Ascendant Dragon. I'm going to notate my ability score improvement. So I got a feat. So I'll just put down feat. And then for traits, I was supposed to pick another feat for my racial trait. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Forgot all about that. So one of those was my racial trait, which was I think the dragon scale. So I want to take a look at this other feats here, not just the Fizaban ones. I think I want to take the, let's see, the dragon hide. That's already kind of redundant, so don't want that. Fighting initiate. Martial training to develop particular style. As a result, you learn a fighting style of your choice. Might want that. A grappler is something that I definitely would want to do. So you have advantage. You could try to pin somebody. Yeah, I might do that because that's something that would go along with his actual class or his build. Lucky, there's some. Yeah, I'm thinking that grappler is the one. Yeah, grappler or tavern brawler might be another one. So I'm going to pick the grappler. That's really cool. So I will do that because he likes to grab people for sure. So I'm going to put this on the back of his sheet here under the monk area. Even though it's really not a codable thing, I want to have that so it's easier to see it and find it. So I'm going to have this group. Call this the monk because it's going to be one of his monk type things. And it's basically just a way to keep track of what is what. So that and that. So where is it? Grappler right here. So I want to change that to monk. There we go. So it's down in here now in that group. And that's just notes on it. So no, I get advantage against a creature that you're grappling. And I can use an action to try to pin them. So I just have to make another check. If I succeed, then I have them restrained until the grapple ends. So that's pretty cool. So that is going to go on his abilities area. So he's got 2 feats now. And that's that. So that's one thing I forgot to do was, since he's a human variant, he had an extra feat. So I'm going to go ahead and notate that, because that's what I chose for this level, for this character. And then this one here was going to be the scaled toughness. You do this so that you keep track of what you chose, and just so your GM knows what you have. So you got artisan tools or one instrument, one type of gaming set, and thieves tools. So for artisan's tool or a musical instrument, so I'm going to choose a musical instrument. It's going to have a pan flute. So I'm going to pan flute for the instrument, and it will be based off of probably his dexterity, because he doesn't really sing or perform a whole lot with it. But when he does, I think he's pretty good at it, but he's more dexterous than he is performance. So base it off of that. And then for his inventory itself, I'm going to add the flute, pan flute, to his inventory. Put that in a pouch. And let's see, pan flute. There we go. So that's basically what he has. So if I look at his sheet, you got your quarterstaff, you got darts, and all these different unarmed strikes. And then all of the standard actions. He has his feat for grappling, and it actually has the coding here. So if you need that, it's right there. Advantage on attack. So when I added that feat, it automatically added it because of the products that I have loaded. And so I don't really even need that grappler thing. It's already added. So I'll just delete that. And that's about it. So this is a fully coded, fully operational monk. I'm going to try his resistance to slashing and toughness. I want to see if that's going to work. So I'm going to grab an NPC and try that out. So he's on the combat tracker. He's got resist and resist on the slashing and the piercing. So I want to find an NPC and do some damage to him to make sure that part's working right. Pretty sure it's right, but I want to make sure. So I'm going to go to the sidebar, and I'm going to add NPCs, and then grab an NPC, find something that has those attack types. So let's try a scout. Okay, here's a scout. Scout should have something like that. So if I bring up the scout and make it his turn, his or her turn. Okay, so here's a longbow that's piercing. So if I drag and drop this damage onto Anathema, it should only give him... Yeah, so he partially resisted, which is good. Okay, so we know that worked. And let's go with a different NPC that's going to have a slashing weapon. Let's try a dervish or something that has like a scimitar. So let's see. Classes or NPCs. I'll just do a drow. I know they have something like that. Some kind of slashing weapons. Okay, so here's a drow variant. Let's see what they have for short sword, long sword. So longbow, short sword, that's piercing. Okay. How about an elite warrior? What do they have? They have short blade, hand crossbow. Okay. Who would have that? Let's see, a knight. Gotta have some. Okay, here's a knight. How frustrating. Okay, so that's the scout. Now we want the knight. So the knight has a heavy crossbow, great sword, slashing. So let's see what happens. So we'll get rid of this drow here. Okay, so the great sword, I'm going to do some damage. And it's 1d6 slashing. So let's see what happens. Yep, so that worked. So I just put them on separate lines. That way it's, it doesn't break or do anything crazy. All right, and now I'm going to test out his unarmed strike. So if I do one of these and it's supposed to do this breath weapon thing here. So I want to do the breath weapon. So I'm going to use one of the breath weapons. I'm going to drag and drop the damage or the save. So they failed the save, so let's see how much damage they take. So full damage. Let's see if they save again. So put that on there. Okay, this time this succeeded, so it should only do half damage instead of full. This is how you check this stuff. You have to have them on the combat tracker or it's not going to work. Yep, half. So that's right. It's absolutely right. So that's good. So half damage. So that would have been 3. Damage 3 to the knight, half. So that's right. All right, so that works. So just wanted to check to make sure, because when you make stuff like that, you want to check it out. And the only way to really check it is to have those on the combat tracker. I don't know how many times I've worked on NPCs, and I'm like, it's not working. Well, it's because I didn't have it on the combat tracker. And every time you make a change, you have to remove it from the combat tracker and then put it back on, or the changes won't be registered. So be careful when you're making NPCs and you're testing them out. You want to add them and take them away as you're adding stuff. So that's a pro tip. I've made that mistake so many times, I can't believe it. But anyway, so that is basically the Dragonborn knight there, or the the Ascendant Dragon Human Variant Level 5 Monk with all the coding, all the specialty stuff. So you got Grappler and all the Ascendant Dragon stuff, the key powers, the traits that he got from being a monk. So that's cool. So that's a done deal. And the graphic that I made for this was in the, let's see, images. So if I go to the library, excuse me, the assets, and then I go to images, and then I go to the campaign folder where I stored it. This is the actual image that I used for this. So if I can make this my background decal, so pretty cool. So that's his little icon and little token and portrait and such. So there you go. So that's the Anathema, the Way of the Dragon, level 5 monk human variant. And he's kind of like a bounty hunter. So he brings people in for justice or for hire. So that's basically it. So hopefully that helps you get an idea of what can be done with Fantasy Grounds, and also the new Dragon Ascendant for the monk. And also cautioned you that if you use it with the Dragonborn, they're going to have 2 different breath weapons, which doesn't make sense sometimes. It's okay, but I think it would be better if you actually picked a different race or a different build, so you're not doubling up. All right, folks, have a good one. Again, this is Founder Leeman with Fantasy